Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to SP Interviews where today for the 30th installment I am going to be chatting to Tatiana Blades from the Collektives, and if we switch over to here we have Tatiana on the screen. Feel free to tell us a bit more about yourself.
Hi there, my name is Tatiana Blades, and I am a entrepreneur, musician. Recently kind of found my voice with my band, The Collektives, which is how you and I are speaking and getting to know one another right now.
And how long have you, like, what has your musical journey been like so far? Where did it all start?
Oh, well, okay, so my musical journey, that depends on like where that really begins. When I was younger, I remember writing in composition books. I don't know if you remember, like in school, the black and white composition books that we would have to get. So I remember writing in those and writing poems and writing songs and just writing little ideas when I was younger. And I still have those in a box somewhere. And I would save them and just like for no reason, there was no goal behind it, no anything. It was just something that I naturally did. And so when I was around 13, 14, I started hanging out with my dad more. And at that time, he was signed to a studio, and he would just take me with him, to taking me with him to work. And I would see my first exposure to production and producers was being in. It was the coolest thing ever because it was like school, but the cool part of school that you wanted to deal with. So you got all these producers and writers in a room, and they're it's almost like the best way that I can describe it to compare it to now is like Google headquarters. It's very comfortable, very laid back kind of setting set for creative, so everybody's kind of like eating or just having wine or something, and they're just kind of spitballing ideas back and forth. And I didn't really grasp what was happening at that point, but I understand they were talking about different writing concepts, different rhythms, and different things like that. And I got it. I understood what they were, without having to be told. I understood what they were talking about. So, and that's when they started. I was like, "Well, what are you guys doing? I want to do something too." And I asked them to give me some songs. They did to keep me busy, and then I went home and I wrote and I, gave it to my dad. So, and that was when I was like 13, 14. When I was around 16, 17, 18, I would, do light music things with friends, but I never really pursued anything. And then when I turned, I would say about like 22, 23, I started lending my voice to international DJs for like remakes of covers and for things like that. And then I stopped completely because everybody kind of had this concept for what they wanted me to do. And I was never really asked what I wanted to do, how I wanted to sing, what I was into. I was always just a voice for somebody else. So I stopped and I didn't really pursue it at all, left it alone. And as fate would have it, back in around 2018, I started going to these music gatherings in Miami. And they were basically, it's really cool because there would be this main director that would know all of these local musicians and then call everybody to come to a music gathering. And there would be one gathering that was for like musicians. And this gathering is like everybody would just like, there were no set rules or anything. It was just like we'd all get together. Everybody would just kind of start singing songs, joining in. It would go into something else. They would join in tambourines, a guitar, a sax player, a violin. It was so freestyle. It was awesome. And then there was a party later that month. And the musicians that had attended that rehearsal, if you will, were invited to go to that party, and then everybody would invite all of their friends, and we would just really do it for fun and for just the love of it. And that's how I got back into it, and that's how I met like my bandmates. And that was it. It wasn't anything like a plan or like one moment. I think it was a moments leading into it.
Fantastic. Yeah, you've had a hell of a journey, haven't you?
It's life is like that though, right? You think you know where you're going, you think you have all this figured out, and then it's like nope. Then you think you've got it figured out for sure, and then it's like nope, you don't even have that. So I'm just here for the ride.
That's fantastic. And so, like, how would you describe the music that you're doing now with the Collektives?
It's interesting because it started off as much like these gatherings. We got together. One of my best friends was like, you have to meet my friend. He's all into music just like you are, and he's just as talented. You guys need to like at least meet each other and be friends, you know? And he kept insisting for like half a year. And we finally got to meet at the coffee house, my friend's coffee house. And I was like, okay. I was like, what's, you know, we got to meet. And he was like, oh, you know, I heard you do this. And I'm like, oh, I heard you do this. And he had his guitar with him. So he just started strumming, and we just started kind of like spitballing and just singing and doing stuff. And then he invited his friend who was his drummer from his previous band, Dyslexic Postcards. And he came and started brought a cajon, and we just started kind of jamming out. And we were like, oh, we like this. So we started meeting every week just to meet, like just for fun. That was our thing that we did. I you know, was like, oh, social media, let's put it on Instagram. So I started doing the live Instagram lives. And then that's when people venue had seen us, and they were like, oh, well, we want to book you guys. And we didn't have a name or anything. We were just us. And we were like, I was psyched that anybody wanted to pay us, because I was like, you want to pay us to play? I was beyond excited. The rate, if I told you, is just like laughable. But I was just, it could have been $5. I was just like, oh my God, somebody wants to pay us to play, guys. So yeah, that's how that happened.
That's fantastic. Because, like, how would you describe a typical set that you do with Eddie and Joe?
So, okay, our typical sets basically started like we would work on things like more of the alternative stuff, like Black Hole Sun, you know, Zombie was a big one that I really liked. Nobody ever wanted to sing that one at the music parties, because they said that it was so sad and it was so like whatever, such a downer. So I was like, okay. So we sang and got into playing stuff like that. So we got into the covers, and we did it our way. We didn't do it exactly the same. We did it just however I can't, there was literally no organization to it. And I think that's what makes it really beautiful for us, because it's like nobody's saying like, play it this way, do it this way. We're just vibing with it, seeing where it goes. So it's a familiar song, but it's different, you know? And so that's how we started with the covers. Then we started noodling around with the music and making our own original music. And that music, I've taken a look recently at the songs that we've released together, and it's all been between the writing has been between 2020 and 2021. And the releases were in 2021, 2022. I have a tendency, it seems, to write about life's woes and losses, and you know, it's like you don't really realize it while it's happening sometimes. If like a Ferris Bueller quote, you know, sometimes if you don't you look around, you might miss some things. And I try to do that. And I recently, like I said, did that. And I was just like, okay, where is this coming from? Because when it happens, it just like, if let's just say Eddie's strumming something, he's like, oh, I have something, like, what do you think about this? He'll show me 10 songs and I'm like, I won't feel anything. But then he plays this one thing and I'm like, what is that? Stay with that. Let's go with that. So then I'll hear it. Sometimes I'll hear the whole thing. Sometimes I'll hear parts of it, and then we'll go from there and start building it. And like for All Within Me, that song came relatively quick. Like the lyrics were, we fumbled around with some words here and there, but the lyrics for the most part, the structure was like already there. And these were probably thoughts that I had and feelings that I had that were not really expressed. Maybe I didn't really know how to. Things that had happened recently. And sometimes I've always been very outspoken. I always can find something to say and talk about. And then it's those more important things that I tend to turn to myself and not really express them. And that's kind of where music comes in. Music, I feel, is one of those universal elements where you can expose yourself a little bit. And nobody, like, if you are really listening, and if the person or the artist is being really true and honest with their show or their performance, you can meet in a medium, you know, of connection, of saying that there's something behind this. There's heart, there's pain, there's truth behind this, and something that you relate to clicks to that. And that's a really beautiful meeting point, you know? And so I think that the guys and myself, I think that we all come from that point when we write. And the music tends to be more in like the alternative rock or rock pop genre. We've kind of been playing around with different things lately, trying to figure out what we like and what we don't like. Because one of the things was I never really wanted to be peg-holed into, oh, you have to play this way and only this way. And I grew up hearing that, and it may be true, and we may be shooting ourselves in the foot, but like that's why you have Honky Tonk, which is, you know, kind of a slap knee song, upbeat. It's actually a true story. The lyrics are based on a true story. I went to New Orleans. I went to a Fat Tuesday, and it was a drive-through Fat Tuesday. And it's like, it's funny because it's like you get DUIs for drinking while driving, yet there's a drive up alcohol bar that gives you the alcohol as you. So I thought it was a trick. And when I went up there, saw a lady named Wendy. She was like a husky lady named Wendy. She was like, hey, baby, you know what's going on? I was like, what is this? Is this a trick? What's happening? She's like, oh, you know, you got to let loose. You got to go with it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's like those lyrics were based on true events that actually happened. And Letting Go was like our first song that we ever wrote. It was such a shit show. Literally, letting go. I guess letting go, that song was also a little bit about letting go of perfection. Letting go of, because we always wanted to be like, it has to be perfect. We have to do this. The lyrics have to be this. It has to be this. Da, 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 da. And we got so caught up in that for so long. And I was like, guys, we need to do something. And in the picture, even in the picture, in the very first picture, there were so many things happening. I just had surgery on my finger. So I had like a cast. We were trying to, on my finger, Gaston barely made it. There was a hurricane basically coming on the horizon, and we were trying to get the photo before we got dumped on. It was just, there was so many things happening, and all against that. Everybody was like, I don't like the way this looks. We didn't do this right. And I was like, you know what, guys? We're just going to put it out there just as it is. We're going to accept it, and we're going to figure out where we can be better next time. And this is out there forever as our starting point. And although it's not perfect, it's honest. And let's go up from there. And I think every song has gone up from there. At least in my soul, I believe it has.
No, I would say that listening to your material, you have got a range of different influences in there. You know, it's a journey, it's an adventure, you know. What are your musical influences? Who inspired you with music in general?
So this is a very interesting question, because right before we started this conversation, I was listening for like 20 minutes to a couple of different stations that I used to listen to when I was growing up. And even when I was growing up, these were not like the stations that a child would normally listen to, you know what I mean? So like I was like, we listen to what our parents listen to. Ideally, you know, there's some influence, or the people that we grew up with, they have an influence on what we hear, because we hear them when we're growing up. So my mom was really into like Simply Red and Journey and Foreigner and The Police and Enigma, and my dad was really into like Latin, you know. So it's like I had all of these really diverse music influences around me, and I really liked all of them. I was attracted to something in each of them. I felt like the really cool stuff to me when I was much younger and exposed to what my mom had given, like I was like Enigma, Deep Force, Bjork. Then I started becoming a teenager, and then I was into like Tori Amos, you know, Fiona Apple, Alanis Morissette was a huge one. Natalie Imbruglia, like all of those artists were I was like, wow, these people are really cool. And then I went into high school, and it was Coldplay. U2 was always a big one. Depeche Mode was always a big one. And the more obscure ones were like The Cure, The Police, kind of, you know, those kind of people. What I really appreciate about an artist, I can appreciate two aspects to an artist. I can appreciate the artist themselves and their true commitment and being as a performer and artist, like as an artist, as a, you know what I don't know how to describe it, but, and being a performer, because there's two different elements. You know, you can be a great performer and not that great of a musician or singer, you know, and you can be a great singer, but maybe not so much of a good performer, you know? So there's people like that. And like, so Beyonce is this amazing performer and singer. That's not something that you usually have hand in hand like that. I went recently to see my lady, Alanis, and she fucking came out. Like, I was all wondering what she was going to come out in. This woman But true to fucking heart, she came out in her big baggy shirt, her big baggy pants, her Puma sneakers, her hair was wild, and she just sang her heart out. And she sang exactly and sounded exactly how when I played that record, that CD when I was younger, that's exactly how she sounded. There was no effects, there was no manipulation. It was her. And I felt everything. And I was just like, still all of these years later, she's got it, man. She's got it. And, you know, her audience and her reach probably wasn't as extensive as these bigger artists, more popular ones nowadays. But I feel there's kind of some real heart in there. You know, it's like they're not mainstream and they're not commercial. They are like side mainstream, I guess. I don't know. Do you get what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm saying it the right way.
It's okay, I'm just listening. It's really nice to hear someone that is so incredibly passionate about this kind of thing, because, you know, sometimes people focus on either the studio side or the live side. You just take all of it seriously.
Yeah, I do. And, you know, it's... I'll share something with you that I think is because I've recently been thinking about all of these things, because I think every experience in life makes us who we are. Every experience. And I remember when I started when I was 14 and 15, I started going to the studio with my dad, and I was, you know, people would ask like if I was singing, and I would say, yeah, okay. And so they would ask me to do demos for some of their music, you know, because they would pitch them to artists and they needed a voice that was on it. And I wasn't doing anything else, you know? So I would go into the studio, and although basically everyone in my family speaks Spanish, I don't. I was being pitched for all these Spanish songs. So it was a really big like project for me, because Spanish has so much emotion in it, in the music. Coldplay does not sound like Paulina Rubio. There's like a generation and a life, I can't even explain it to you. So it's like, I'm not that. So I like, it was a challenge for me being that young, and then having the producer like, oh my God, enunciate, do this. Where's the energy? Jump up and down, do blah, 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 blah. And I was like, holy shit. Okay. But I did it. But then it became not enjoyable for me. The process was kind of like, do this. No, do it. Like this. Sing it like this. Go with this energy. Say it. So I was literally just being used as like I was like a hammer, you know, like just like, oh yeah, here, do it like this, like through somebody. So that's when I kind of stopped going into music. And that's when I was telling you, I had a lot of those kinds of people around me when I was younger. So I just thought, I was like, wow, music, if this is what music is, it's not very fun anymore. And everybody kept telling me like I had to look a certain way or sound a certain way or do a certain thing. And I was just like, I thought it was just about the music. And that's, you know, clearly there's always more to it. So now that experience groomed me to when I later got involved now again with music, right? And I was just singing with my buddies. And then we went back into the studio, and it wasn't necessarily my first time being in the studio. It was my first time being in the studio as an adult and being able to understand what was being required of me and these kind of things. But it wasn't my first time in the studio. I was familiar with when they said certain things, certain gestures, even though this is something you would expect from somebody that's been in there for a long time. I got it, you know? So I was like, okay, we move forward. And it's been, I'm sure you've heard that in the music industry and entertainment business, you have to a certain degree, a thick skin. You have to be able to hear opinions about you, about critiques about your voice, which is your instrument, about how you're doing things. And you have to see that for what it is, take that for what it is or what it's not, and like learn to move with it, shape it, you know, and be better from it. And so when I went back into the studio, I realized that there were some similarities between what that last producer had told me and what this new one had. And and one of those main ones was that they were like, Tatiana, let go. Stop being so controlled. They had told me that you're so in your head. They were like, you already have a great voice. You have a good voice. You hit all the notes. You do all the things. That's what makes a good singer. I go, but it's not just about having a good voice. It's about being honest, and it's about communicating a message and just letting go. and letting go. And so I was like, okay. So I realized that there was a part of me that was holding myself back for some reason. I don't know what the fear was, but there clearly was something there. So I started to begin to learn how to let go a little bit and be less concerned with what the studio producer was going to say or like, and more concerned with me just being in that moment, feeling it. Because it's like, it's so difficult when you're saying something, we're having an in-depth conversation about something that's meaningful, and then somebody interrupts us, and then it's just like, oh, you kind of lose that momentum of where you were going. Oh, okay, can you start that over again? But be authentic. You're like, no, that was a moment. It's gone. I can't just do it like that. To a certain degree, also, that is what being a musician is: going in there and having to do it and do it again and do it again and do it again and do it again. But I found that if there's a certain process and way that I plan and pre-plan what I'm going to do, I have more control of when I go into the studio and saying, hey, I've learned the song the way that you sent it to me. This is what I feel. So can we do a take where I sing it the way I want and without any influence from anybody, and then I'll sing it the way you want, and then we'll see which one, how it could be better, and where we can go from there. So I have to be open to that also as a musician, So I think that these kinds of little things have allowed me to be like, okay, learning to take the opinion and perspective of other people in the music industry, and then also respecting my own creative influence on what I'm performing. So those kinds of things like have been something that I've been able to take with me and learn and be better as a performer and as and as a musician, I think.
That's beautiful. I mean, like, when was the first time that you were just able to let go in like a studio and just have it? Was it the song Letting Go? Was that the first time, or did you have a moment before then?
No. That song was a lot of that. No, that no, not that one. The one that I will say that I started standing up for was actually All Within Me. This is Pacino.
Hello, Pacino. How you doing?
All Within Me. Eddie was strumming a tune, and I was like, I kind of started singing something. And he's like, did you just sing that? And I was like, yeah. So we got a voice note, and because we forget sometimes when we sing or do something, we'll just forget it right as soon as we spit it out. So we open the voice note, make sure that it's there. And then I just start singing the verses. The verses came really easy to me. It was the chorus that took us like 6 months to put together, because it was just like the producer, see that when we took it to the producer, we were all like peanut butter jelly about it, right? And then he's like, all right, kids, settle down. Let's come to the writing board. Remember, when you're writing a song, you're telling a story. You have to be, if not, you have to tell a story and be descriptive, so we went in there, and I think it was what the lyrics ended up being for the chorus was, we build sandcastles to watch as they crumble. Tide crashes in, and then we start over again. So basically, that's like a synonym for life, like we wake up, we go through all this shit, all this stress. We got to do it again, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's fair, whether it's anything, we got to find the strength in ourselves to do it, And I really felt like maybe every one of us maybe is doing that to a certain extent, whether it's for work, whether it's for family or personal relationships, or just for ourselves, it's just like the other day, I for no reason at all, I was just like, I don't want to do anything today. I was like on strike from the world, and I had to do rehearsals. There were things that needed to be done, and I'm an adult, so I need to adult myself. You know what I mean? Like, because nobody tells you this about adulting. The thing about adulting is that there's nobody there to say, oh, you shouldn't eat that chocolate pie. You're like, I want that chocolate pie. I'm having that chocolate pie. And so there was I got to a point, and I was like, I don't want to do anything today. And I was like, Tatiana, go do this, go do that, go do that. And I was like, no, I don't want to. And I'm like, So you're gonna have days like that where you don't understand why you feel like this. Maybe you do understand why you feel like this, but I think, and I can speak for myself. I can be my biggest critic or my biggest ally, and I have to be careful with that because it's everybody has like a wool. What is that? There's some phrase, something out there that it's like every person, we have a wolf inside our mind, and we have something else, whichever one you feed is the one that wins. It's an expression. And so I try to remember when I do feel like that, hey, you know what? It's okay. I feel like this. It's okay. Whatever it is, give myself a break. Not like I have to be up and happy all the time. So the first line of that song is sometimes you feel like shit. I liked it because it reminded me a little bit of Alanis Morissette, like an ode to her and like her very brutally honest songs. I had watched a documentary about her, and she said that when she actually came out, when she exploded on the scene was when she started writing songs from the heart, and she didn't care what anybody else said. And she went against producers and she went against a lot of people, and she maybe didn't become as big as she could have been following other instructions, but she was honest. And so that's when all within me, it got told to me, this sounds a little Alanis-y. And I was like, that's amazing. So in my eyes, I'm like, that's a compliment. Yeah. And then they were like, well, don't you think you want to establish like your own identity? Like, don't you think you want to create your own version of it? And I was like, but I am. I'm not singing exactly as Alanis, but I'm not Alanis. I'm Tatiana. But she had an influence on me. I loved her range of music, the way that she was able to express it and go into another verse. Like her brutal honesty in spitting something, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think that's what I really love about her, because again, life is not perfect. And right now, especially, we live in such a world where everything is edited and filtered and cut and copy and paste that like I work in production and entertainment here in Miami, and I don't know if it's happening over there, but over here, like everybody's looking the same. All the women are looking the same. They're getting the same fillers, Botox, adjustments, whatever. It's like it's like a culture thing down here where it's really surprising. So it's like this is where I really like people that are just kind of showing themselves as they are, for better or for worse. I think those are really important reminders, because that's not reality. The reality is, you know what, guys? Sometimes you feel like shit. Sometimes you messed up. Sometimes we realize that we can do better. But I think the beauty is in realizing that you can, and you can do better, So, and when you wake up the next day, and this is true every day. I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I made it. Woo, I made it. Like, here's like another day, because I've had like over the past 10 years, like there've been like 7 people that I've known that have passed away in their sleep. And I was like, that's crazy. Like that's a living proof that we take for granted. We're not promised tomorrow. We're really not. We don't know what the hell is going to happen. And especially now with everything that's been happening in the world, and you see it, I'm just like, you know what? I open my eyes. It's a brand new day. I'm grateful and happy. I still get to say thank you. The battle is great. The lessons that I've learned, they've shaped who I am today. And that's absolutely true. I've been through some really horrible things, and I've been through some really beautiful things. And I really wouldn't change any of them, because I wouldn't be who I am today or know what I know today if I hadn't gone through those experiences. And I don't know if you're familiar with the movie Vanilla Sky. There's a line in it which is said, it's like you have to have the sweet or you have to have the bitter to appreciate the sweet. Or the sweet is not as sweet without the sour. It's a balance, that whole balance of things can be great in your life, and if it's always great, then you'll never understand when it's not, how beautiful it is when it's going right. So yeah, I try to take all of those things into consideration in just my daily living, and even in when I'm translating for what I perform. Let me know if I'm talking too much, because I can do that.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm just listening. It's fine. The thing you said about people kind of appearing the same, it does happen here in New Zealand a little bit. I think it's because a lot of people are afraid that if they're different, then they're going to be looked down upon. And then people will be super different online, but in person, they're a lot quieter about it.
I like the things that make people different, though. I really appreciate those things.
Yeah, I mean, like, how important is it to be different? You've mentioned that Alanis Morissette sold well when she was authentic to herself. Is that kind of like, is that like, because it's not just a business strategy, it's also a way of taking care of yourself, isn't it?
Yes, but being it's I had gotten asked this question, and it was, what kind of musician do you want to be? I was kind of tripped out by the question because I was like, I don't understand. I just want to be a musician. They were like, well, do you just want to be a bar performer? Do you just want to sing in clubs? Or do you want to actually be a musician and a performer? And I was like, I would like to be a musician and performer that performs for many people. And they're like, okay, well, there's going to be certain things that you're going to need to do and adjust and edit. And then as soon as you start getting these lists of things that you're like, whoa, 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 it becomes really a different experience. And there have been people, and I don't want to put them down or, or belittle them for taking that path, because it's like, it's very difficult to be an authentic performer nowadays and get the backing that you need to be able to have the reach that you want. And that's very true, because if I really want to be, I could have probably gotten a lot further along if I had just sucked it up, gone to the studio, sang the way they wanted me to, and been a part of performances like that. At that point, I would have been a good singer, but I wouldn't have been an honest one. I would have just been a voice that sounded pretty, but not, there wouldn't have been anything behind it. Yeah, being authentic, I think, is really important. And like I said, especially nowadays, and like you said, there's so many people that are scared to be different. There's real beauty in being different. I can appreciate, these women that are aging beautifully and not really doing too much about it and just letting it show like what an actual woman at 30 looks like, at 40 looks like, at 50 looks like, so that people don't get confused with trying to always be this perfect thing. And I've found that the more that I've gotten older, I've always liked being different and not being the same as other people, because you, everybody else is already there, like, why wouldn't you be? I never really understood that, like, why wouldn't you be yourself? Like, why wouldn't you share these parts of yourself? Who else is going to wear your pants for you? Who else is going to say your thoughts? But now I'm coming from my own perspective. This is not necessarily easy for everybody. Some people are very aware and self-conscious of the outside world. And it's interesting because I'm sitting here as a musician and as a performer that's wanting to get my voice out to be heard. And in order to do that, I need to in some way relate to people, right? So but it's such a weird thing, to be relatable and to also be yourself. I think when it comes down to the bare bones of it, it comes down to emotions and feelings, and we all have those. We all dress ourselves differently. We listen to different music. We have different perspectives on politics and on how to be a good parent or how the right way to do anything is. But we all feel love. We all feel pain. We all feel embarrassment. We all feel shame. And those are feelings and things that you feel in music that you can't fake. So regardless of what I'm wearing or, whatever is going on, that's a plus. That might make you remember me in a different way, because, I'm a little bit weird in that way too. But the honesty is in the music. It's in what's being translated. The rest is just, dress up.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, most people listen to music via Spotify where they can't see a person's face. They're literally just judging the quality of the music and how it makes them feel, which is why I agree. It makes me so incredulous when I hear people talk about how they've got this list of stuff they need to accomplish. When you have people on social media that get millions of followers by being far less than organic, and they literally...
Yes, absolutely. It's, I've gotten asked for a couple of music things, and they were like, "Oh, what are your followers?" And it blew my mind that was being asked. You know what I mean? And I'm like, what does that have to do with it? Like, you want to hear my music? Maybe. I'm like, I've seen people that have, and I've seen bands. There's a band locally, right? And they're incredible. I don't know how they are not huge. Like they are, and I mean, every single show, they're so talented. All of the band members rotate. They all play drums. One's a music teacher. They all play drums, bass, guitar, piano, everything. They rotate, they harmonize, they sing. They're amazing. And this band, everywhere they go, rocks everything. People are like, much like how we do. Like we have a connection everywhere we go. And then yet you will get contacted by a place and then they'll be like, oh my god, we heard you guys are great, we want to book you, like what's your Instagram, what's your follow count, what do you think your ratio to something is? And I was like, I had no idea that this, unfortunately this is a part of it that I'm not familiar with. But like, and even look, to mention this, musicians are, there's maybe it was always this way, but I was informed that by the producers that when writing music now, right, there is a threshold, because now attention is very different from what it was back then. The attention span of somebody today is much less than it was back then, because you have just, everything is so fast. You see a preview, you see this, it's just quick, quick, quick. So getting somebody interested in a song, it's said that you have to get within 35 to 38 seconds. You need to get to the chorus, or you need to get to that what were they calling it, like that impact, or that element, or you've lost the person. So a producer or a person listening to a song for submission, right, to get on the radio, you need to gain that attention within 15 to 38 seconds. And so with any song that we write or submit to a producer or a place, they're going to look at that. That's automatically going to be one of the things that they look at. So then if you look at that, right, how do you like I don't know if you know Angus and Julia Stone. Like I love their music, and it's not 35 seconds. Within 35 seconds, you're still just getting like a trumpet or like a piano. Like you're not getting any of the song. So it's like, these are some of the standards that we have to deal with when people are saying, oh, well, you want to get your music out there. You want to be a musician that's on the radio. You want to be a musician that has reach and gets heard. These are the things you got to do. Be poppy, be upbeat, and I'm like, yeah, I take a deep breath and I'm like, wow, is this part of this? Is this what I have to do in order to get heard and have my voice out there?
That's pretty wild, because I would have thought that that'd be like, okay, let's just assume that was what you needed to do. I would have thought that would at least be the single, but is that just a general thing now?
Generally, for every song.
But like, how are you supposed to have a wider scope to something if you're shoving everything into 2 minutes?
That's my feeling as well. I've had songs that are like 6-7 minutes, and then they're like, Tatiana, you're like a minute in, and we're not even to like, to this. We're gonna trim this, we gotta cut this. So then I was like, oh, so what do you think if we make a radio edit, and then we also make like a this edit? And then they're like, oh, well, then now you're also investing money on the mixing and the mastering of these two songs, which right now you're not an artist that is really getting those kinds of plays. So that means investing thousands of dollars in this. And is that worth it? And is this the right thing to do? So then you're like, you obviously as an artist want to make sure that you're investing your money the best way that you can, giving quality work to the people that are going to hear it and listen to it. But then you're also on one end like, oh my goodness, like, what do I do? Where's the best way to go? But this is again also something part of the deal when you don't sign to a record label and you don't have them making these decisions and handling all this stuff for you, because then you have to do whatever they want. You have to put on whatever they want. You have to say whatever they want, and your music gets promoted and marketed in whatever fashion that they want. Luckily, we've released the music. It's been out there. People have been hearing it. From what I understand, they've been relating well to it. I'm speaking to you now, and it's, let me ask you something. Have you heard All Within Me?
I have, yes.
Did you have any initial feeling on it, or when you heard it, like anything that you related to within it?
Everything comes at once. You guys don't mess around. You don't mess around with getting to the point of it for the most part. And because I go into review mode, I listened to like the drum bits and the vocal bits and the guitar parts and everything like that. So I was also well with the instrumentalism of it and the musicality of it, as well as your voice, because you do have a very nice singing voice that I feel like there's replay value enough for me to need to listen to it a few more times just to really have final thoughts on it. It made
Oh,
me feel
nice.
stuff.
That's what. Okay, so what made you feel? Was there any line, any lyric, any?
I'm gonna need to basically listen through it again to really get a crux of it. But when you think about
Okay.
All Within Me, it just my initial impression was basically there was just this sort of overall sense of uncertainty to it, and you were sort of trying to figure out how things were gonna work. And I could be
Yeah.
completely wrong. I could be completely wrong on that front, but there was like a hope, a sense of optimism that you'd initially get there.
A big part of it was, again, writing and speaking from an honest perspective. When I was 18, I auditioned for a couple of dance companies. Like when I was 18 and younger, I was in dance camp, like band camp. I was in dance camp, and I was in drill team and dance competitions and all this stuff. And so when I auditioned for these more glam kind of modern ish companies, I was way too jazz hands, oh my God, what was the lady from Saturday Night Live that she was like, oh, like the superstar? I was way too that. I needed to come down and chill out a little bit. Auditioned for a couple companies, got in with them. And then I managed to get into that kind of genre and that universe of understanding how everything worked within that realm, right? I had a point with this that I completely lost. For if you'll refresh me, the what we were just talking about, I swear I had a point.
You were talking about how you were two jazz hands or something like that.
Oh, so I was told that I was too jazz hands for that, and I didn't get the audition. I went back, I took the instruction of what they had told me, went back and re-auditioned. And they were like, we like your energy. You're still not there yet, but we're gonna bring you in, and we like that you came back, and we wanna grow with you, right? So I from that experience, I became an entertainment and dancer. Got it. Got where I was going. I'm back in it. I got into entertainment and dancing, and I loved being a dancer and a performer. At some point, I decided I didn't like the direction of how I was getting booked. I didn't like that the people that were around me that were calling themselves performers weren't really performers, but rather pretty people. So I decided to open my company. And when I started talking to people about it, and even people that were closest to me, I got more negative than positive. I got more, it's going to be a lot. It was almost not, it was like misdirected. How do I explain it? It's like when somebody's like, that's going to be really hard, right? Like, are you sure you want to do that? Like, oh, it's not, you know what I mean? It's like that positive negative. Like, I think you can do it, but like, do you know how much work that is? Like, like it wasn't like, oh wow, you should go do it. Like, oh, go kick ass. Like, no, there was not that. And I had to really make a decision against what I was hearing to go into it. And so the same thing happened in 2018 when I started getting together with friends and singing and just doing things. And then I had gotten asked by that venue, like, hey, do you guys want to sing and play with us? And I was like, absolutely. I started then thinking, oh my God, wait, we should have a band then. We should have a name. So then I started, I figured in my head, you can't just have like a percussionist, drummer, guitarist, and vocalist. You need to have like a bass player, a second guitarist, right? And then when I started talking to those musicians about forming a band and doing stuff, I got this like, oh, you're gonna form a band? Like, oh, do you think it's easy to like just book things? Like, sweetie, I'm a musician. Like, I've been playing for 10 years, and it's so difficult to get bookings. And I your head's in the right spot, but you're gonna see how difficult it is. It was a lot of that. And it was only like Eddie, Joe, and I that were like, whatever, we'll just play what we got. They said that they wanted to work with us. Let's just do it. And then from there, people were like, oh, I like what you're doing. Okay. And then we had bass. And then we had somebody, an extra guitar. And then we grew like that. But it was almost, although I did receive encouragement in some areas, I received more doubt and more all of the reasons why it would be difficult and maybe not the best thing to do. And so against all of that, I had to really believe in myself and what I wanted to do to move forward. And that circles back to the song All Within Me. And that was me when I was 18. That was me when I was 23 and 27. And, you know, like this was me growing and realizing, like, okay, you can be how they want you to be. You can learn how to be better. And then you can also take all of that and then offer your best self. And that's kind of like, I would at least like to think that at this point, that's where I'm at today. I've been able to now grow up a little bit more and understand, you know, people, everybody's allowed to have their opinion. And as professionals, when we go into scenarios, you do have to have an open mind and be like, you know, something that you had mentioned about All Within Me was that you liked the arrangement and you liked the storytelling. That storytelling would not have happened had we not all come together and sat down. And he was like, okay, look, this is shit. This is good. This is shit. Let's move this. What are we saying? What's the story? What's the visual? Can I close my eyes and see what this looks like? And the answer was no. And so even though some of us were really committed to certain things, we had to open our minds and say, how can this be better? Let's do it like this. Let's try it like this. Even if we don't end up doing it, let's just open our minds and try it. And that is what that song is about. It is, we go to the beach, right? And as it said, when we're little, we know that those sandcastles aren't going to last. Even as adults, we do them. They build those huge ones. Why do we do it? They're not going to last. They're not going to be there. It's just for the moment of doing something and being present and seeing something beautiful. That's all it is. So it's just that reminder in the chorus that life is like building sandcastles on a beach. You can make something beautiful. You can fail 1,000 times. It can be great. The tide's gonna wash in. It's gonna come back. And tomorrow, hopefully, if we wake up and we have a new day, we can do it all over again. Be better, do better. And that song, it means really a lot to me because that was really my first true experience putting my foot down on things that I believed in, regardless of what other people said. I also absorbed other people's opinions and allowed all of us to do this together. So it really was a big effort on all of us to create that. So that's why there's a lot of love for that song.
I mean, like, I made notes on all your songs. Like, I listened through I Don't Know What Love Is. And I literally said, great musicians, lovely instrumental, fuck the vocals are good. That head voice falsetto sections are awesome. There are some soul lovely rock bits, clean guitars work well, nice, but the buzz rolls into the chorus were fantastic as well. I enjoyed that. And there was a great call. You're welcome. And there was a great call and response with the lead guitars. And I said, yeah, it's a really great song. The musicianship is solid. I made notes on all the songs going through them.
That's amazing.
Oh, it's the least I can do. If I'm gonna interview someone, I need to listen to their songs, right?
Like, I'm seriously gonna cry. It's like, it means a lot for somebody to take the time, really listen and hear the song, and listen to those things, because not everybody does. You know, I can have an opinion about football and I know nothing about it, but when you're somebody that's listening to all of these nuances and appreciating them, it's really awesome. I not everybody does that, so I wanted to thank you for that. And for that song, I Don't Know What Love Is, that song was done in a different studio and played with different musicians, so it's very different from All Within Me, from Honky Tonk. So we had a different lead guitarist on All Within Me and I Don't Know What Love Is. And this is why the band is called the Collektives in the first place, because we have different people. Like right now, our lead guitarist is Harold, and Harold's his inspirations were Van Halen and Jimi Hendrix. And this guy can wail on. I mean, he is something. You feel the energy being next to him. Very different from the lead guitarist from All Within Me and from I Don't Know What Love Is, who was, as you said, and you explained it perfectly, he's more of a jazzy, soulful musician. And that's exactly what you heard. And it's interesting because that was his little stamp on those songs, which I think is really cool, because now the next songs that we're making right now, I'm trying to figure out the name for it, but the next song is it's so cool. I'm so excited to share it. Like I'm working on it. My dad is actually helping us in arranging it and moving some parts in it. So I'm really excited about that.
I mean, like usually I do feature a song at the end of these interviews. Is there a particular song you've released that you would like me to feature at the end of this interview?
So I don't know what love is the most recent one, but I feel the one that if I was going to introduce myself to anyone with a song, I believe it would be All Within Me.
That's fantastic. I just figured I'd ask because, like, I'm just looking through those notes again. You mentioned about trying to find your sound and everything like that. With Honky
Yeah.
Tonk, I wrote the musicianship is strong. It sounds like they're trying to find their sound. I want to know more about where they hit it and why they do what they do. And for me to listen to a song and want to know more about you, you've basically nailed it because I care about it.
Oh, nice. I'll tell you a little story about that song. So my dad is a musician, right? And I always pass everything through him, and I always ask him for his brutally honest opinion because I want it as a musician and as somebody who's telling me about music. So my dad went to our show and he heard us play Honky Tonk Live. And he goes, "What song is this?" And I go, "Honky Tonk." He goes, "We're going to talk about this song later." I was like, "Okay." He goes, "That song was awesome." I was like, "Oh, we have it on Spotify. We have it here. We have it there." So he goes, he listens to it. And then I call him and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" He goes, "You got to talk to me about this song. What happened?" And I was like, and I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Why do you sound like you're not in the same room?" And I go, "We weren't." So, because of time constraints, we weren't all able to play at the same time. And from what I've understood and what I've seen, we are a very strong live band. As I said to you before, the energy that when I'm singing and I can see that people are not on their phones, they're listening intently, they're watching, and I can see emotion. I come alive. I want to give more of that. I want more of that. And it's the connection. And I think the guys also, we all feed off of something. Playing in the studio is playing in the studio. It's like, I don't like working out. I know I should do it, but it's like, oh, okay, I'm working out. Like you're going and like you're going, okay, I'm gonna sing it the best you can. But if you're singing it the best you can, or you're singing it with the most emotion that you can, it's almost like a vocal exercise for me. So I'm a good studio musician, but I wouldn't say I'm the greatest because I'm better raw. I'm better live. So now, that being said, if we're not even playing all in the same room, we don't have that energy to lift off of. So we each have a different dynamic and energy. So we each kind of got together on some points, didn't on some other points, and then mashed it together. But my dad made me aware that the song that he heard live was extremely different from what he heard on Spotify, and even recommended to us to like re-record that live to share with people the difference. And I was like, so that's something that we're actually going to be doing.
Good, yeah, because like I enjoyed listening to it. It was musically sound, and you did great. But I can also appreciate why it might have sounded absolutely phenomenal live.
Oh yeah. Like my dad told me, he was like, those aren't the same songs. And I was like, no, they are. He was like, no, but they're not. He's like, they're not even in the same spectrum. He's like, you owe it to yourself to re-record that and re-release it. He goes, because I felt the energy here. Like I was like, I wanted to get up. I wanted to do something. I was like, wow, this is fun. And I was like, it was so my mom, when I was growing up, she was a bartender in a place called Honky Tonks. A honky tonk. It was Crown Liquor and honky tonks, and that's where the song honky tonk comes from. So again, a little bit of truth in the writing. It's just something that was fun. We were all. It was one of our first songs, if not one of the first songs that we ever wrote. That was one of the ones that we just got together. It was like Eddie was like. And I sat there and I go, I left my heart in New Orleans, and I just started singing, and that was it. So it was just a really cool moment, and we really wanted to stick with that. So I'm looking. We already recorded the live music. Now we just have to put it to a video so that we can share it for everybody on YouTube.
So with that in mind and the understanding that the best songs that you're making at the moment are the ones that are purely organic to yourselves and your life state, Where do you see yourselves going in future with your music?
I would love to follow, like, considering my family's recognitions and acknowledgments, I would really love to at least have like one Grammy, like to earn a Grammy. Like I just to earn it, just to know like amongst my peers that like what you just said, you listen to the songs, listen to the musicianship, you listen to the arrangements, you listen to like the content and the intent in it. I would love to have my fellow musicians hear that and say this is great. This is something that should be acknowledged and heard. That would be an honor. That's one. I would love to play at Red Rocks. And recently, as I'm being told that my goals are very out there because they're like Grammys, Red Rocks, what else you got? And I'm like, I would love to have our music on the radio, and not because I want us to be famous, because I think being famous is horrible. Like I would never want to live like that, but I want our music to be heard. Sometimes I hear music today and I'm just like, how the fuck is that on the radio? Like, how is this something? What? Like, and it's like, it's exploding. It's everywhere. People love it. And here I am writing a song, pouring my heart and soul into it. And then it's like, it's not for the masses. So it's like, I look, there's marketing, there's a way to do things. I myself am not a huge person I just this past 2 years got a YouTube and got that going. I just did the Spotify for myself. I didn't even know I needed one for like myself. I just did all of these things recently. So we're really behind the ball when it comes to how could we reach people? How could we have our biggest, points of contact? And it goes back to how many Instagram followers do you have? How many this? It's like, if it was just about the music and you gave me the opportunity, it would be millions, I believe. I think right now it's not that. I think with every conversation, with every, podcast, with every Zoom, I think it goes a little bit further out there. And, even in our conversation right now, hopefully somebody will be able to hear this and see and understand what the music means, that it's not just a song that they're hearing. There were elements that went into it, and time and effort and energy and money even, that we'll probably never see back, but that's fine. That's totally fine. That was totally worth it in getting it out there. Like, I don't care about any of that. Music for me when I was younger, and I can't imagine what it is for kids today, like growing up and having their life on social media and on everything. It's just so easy access. Like, I'm really grateful for growing up in a generation that I didn't have my stupid shit caught on a camera or on anything. So yeah. It's like, and even back then, I was lost in some places and some things. I didn't know how to talk to everyone about what I was feeling or experiencing. But sometimes I would hear a song or music, and I was like, I heard it. I was like, there is something really honest and painful in this, beautifully painful. Like Sinead O'Connor was great at that, and I was like, there's pain in this. And it seems like it was brutal, but this person got through it. And they're telling a story right now. Okay, maybe I can get through this too. Or wow, don't worry, be happy. Yeah, you're going to have problems. Yeah, you're going to go through things, kind of like all within me, but you have a choice. You can be happy. You have a choice. You can decide to wake up and say, I'm grateful for all the things that I have today, and I'm so happy with that. Or you can say, fuck the world and climate change and politics aren't what I want, and I don't make as much money as I want, and inflation is a bitch, and like you can have all of these things, but it's always up to us. And if I can put something out there that does that for somebody, maybe that's my reason for existing. Because I've always thought that my dad would always say to me, you can't take it with you when you're gone. You can't take anything with you when you're gone. So all we have is what we leave behind, the memories that we leave behind, the impressions that we leave on people. And that for me is what music is. And God, if I really get the opportunity to do that, I would be my biggest accomplishment, I think, in this lifetime. If there's the belief that we come back in recurring lives until we complete that cycle of what we're actually meant here to be, I think that would be it for me. my gift in that way and giving it to people that is as honest as I can be with the restraints that I'm, it's difficult right now today because there's a lot of exposure for people. A lot of the music is like, be hype, be upbeat, be this, like do that. And I've always felt that life, although it's very nice to be upbeat and have those songs that make you want to whistle and feel good, the beauty in the songs that aren't like that is that it reminds you that there is pain in life and that there is beauty in learning from that. Because we don't just grow from our happy moments. We grow from out of the comfort zone. We grow in the pain. It's just in working out and everything. It's in the pain that you're experiencing that growth.
It's cool. It's cool. Look, just before we go no further, I've really enjoyed chatting with you today about yourself and your music and the collectives in general. Tatiana. Unfortunately, we're going to have to go soon. But
All right.
I got two more questions. The first is, what's the most important thing you'd like people to know about your music and what you do with your band?
That's a great question. The most important thing that I would like people to know. My band, I would say we're a group of misfits that fell in love with music and found a certain kind of peace that it gave us in and understanding in this world of not understanding. And when we play our best, we truly are playing for the people that we're performing for. It's a part for ourselves and it's a part for them. Every song that we release and that we put out there, whether it's our best or not, it's honest. It's with intention and it's with love for people and humanity, really. Just our little slice of the universe and what's happening, just to show them that even though something might be bad, they can get through it. We did. Each of us has our own heartaches and our own catastrophes that we've lived through. That's what that song speaks to, that life can happen like that and be that, and you can get through it. And so that's what our music is about. It's those little moments in life, the knee slapping moments when you're dancing and having a great time, those moments when you're having doubt in yourself and you need a little push that you can be better. And those moments when you're in between a space of you're in love, you're not in love, you love yourself, you're trying to find, all of those moments are captured in our music, and that's what we want to share with people.
I genuinely mean this. I think a lot of people are going to resonate with that. And I guess before we finish, where can people find your music at the moment?
So currently, as I understand it, our music is available on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon, SoundCloud, and a bunch of other places where music is sold. Also, if you visit thecollektives.com, we also sell it directly there, and that goes directly to the artist. So rather than getting on Spotify and on Apple iTunes, where they take a big percentage of the artist's cut, like a huge percentage, that's the best way to get our music direct. Sharing it also. Instagram, you can find it when you're on TikTok, when you're on Instagram and you want to replay it or add it somewhere, it's there as well. So sharing is caring.
Well, thank you very much, Tatiana Blades from the Collektives, for the chat today. I learned a lot. Hopefully you had a great time, and I wish you the best of luck in future.
Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers. See you later. And that was my interview with Tatiana Blades of the Collektives, SP Interviews number 30. I personally, aside from a few little moments where I didn't know how to say words, was very happy with this. These interviews are special, not just because of the fact that it allows people to understand these musicians, artists, and bands better. We end up chatting about a lot of really deep, important, and meaningful things that are obviously related, but nonetheless stuff that we might not usually come across in an interview. And I personally, I admire people for being able to be open about that stuff. And Tatiana talking about her past and the pressure she's experienced and the trials she's overcome. I'm really proud of Tatiana and what she's doing at this point in time, and that's part of why this interview just went on so long. I've been trying to do shorter interviews, but this one apparently did not go that way, and that's absolutely fine. Sometimes you chat to someone and you learn all that you need to in half an hour. Sometimes you chat to someone and you go for well above that. But hopefully, if you're at this point watching this, hopefully you enjoyed the interview. If you did, please do go show Tatiana Blades and the Collektives some love via their website and various social medias. And please stay cool and stay safe, and remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as you have to help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next review. Spot it. And I will catch you in the next interview. Spider hands out.